Th- oh, hi, I didn't see you there. The characters of The Great Gatsby is Jay Gatsby. Gatsby is a newly wealthy Midwesterner turned Easterner who orders his life around one desire, to be reunited with Daisy Buchanan, the love he lost 5 years earlier. His quest for the American dream leads him from poverty to wealth, into the arms of his beloved, and eventually to death. Nick Carraway, the story's narrator, Nick buys the small house near Gatsby's mansion in West Egg, and after Gatsby discovers Nick is Daisy's cousin, he wants to be friends. Nick can be seen as the only moral righteous person in the book, but Fitzgerald constantly wants his readers to question this. Daisy Buchanan, beautiful and mesmerizing. Her privileged upbringing in Louisville has conditioned her to a particular lifestyle, which Tom, her husband, is able to provide her. She loves Gatsby, but in the end doesn't go with him. She is the objective of Gatsby's desire, for good or ill, and represents women of an elite social class. Daisy's huckling brute of a husband, Tom, comes from an old, wealthy Chicago family. He commands attention through his boisterous and outspoken, even racist behavior. He leads a life of luxury in East Egg, playing polo, riding horses, and driving fast cars, but hates to be known for only his sporting achievements. He's proud of his affairs and has had many since his marriage. Myrtle Wilson is merely the woman of the moment for Tom. Myrtle Wilson, Tom's side chick. Myrtle serves as a representative of the lower class. Through her affair with Tom, she gains entry into the world of the elite, and the change in her personality is remarkable. She conducts a secret life with Tom, wherein she exhibits all the power and dominance she finds lacking in her everyday life. She eventually suffers a tragic end at the hand of her lover's wife.
The Great Gatsby starts in the summer of 1922 when Nick Carraway, a young man with a dream, moves from Minnesota to work as a bond salesman in New York. Nick rents a house in West Egg, a suburb of New York on Long Island full of the new rich who have made their fortunes too recently to have built strong social connections. One night, Nick drives to East Egg to have dinner with his cousin, Daisy, and her husband, Tom Buchanan. There he meets Jordan Baker, a professional golfer. Jordan tells Nick that Tom is having an affair. After Nick gets home from dinner, Nick sees a strange man holding out his arms towards the water. Nick looks out, but he only sees a green light at the end of a dock. A few days later, Tom invites Nick to a party in New York City. On the way, Tom picks up his mistress, Myrtle Wilson, the wife of George Wilson. At the party, Tom punches Myrtle for making fun of Daisy. Nick goes to one of Gatsby's huge parties. He runs into Jordan there and meets Gatsby for the first time. Gatsby tells Jordan a story she describes as the most amazing thing. The next morning, Gatsby takes Nick to lunch to meet Meyer Wolfsheim, a very shady guy. After lunch, Nick meets with Jordan and she tells him about the amazing story. Gatsby met and fell in love with Daisy before World War I, and he bought his mansion just to be close to her. Gatsby asks Nick to invite Daisy over to his house for tea, so he does it as a friend. Gatsby's plan was to coincidentally stumble by Nick's house while Daisy was there. He wanted to win her love again. Later in the week, Daisy invites Nick and Gatsby to lunch with her, Tom and Jordan. During lunch, Tom realizes Daisy and Gatsby are having an affair. After lunch, they all want to go to New York. At the hotel, Tom and Daisy and Gatsby get into an argument, and he tells Tom that Daisy never loved Tom and has only ever loved him. But Daisy admits that she loved them both. Then Tom tells everyone that Gatsby made his fortune by bootlegging alcohol. Gatsby and Daisy leave together, and Tom, Nick, and Jordan leave later. Daisy drives Gatsby home in Tom's car, and while driving through the Valley of Ashes, Myrtle sees Tom's car and runs into the road and gets hit and killed. Tom sees the accident and realizes that it must have been Gatsby that killed Myrtle. George Wilson, Myrtle's husband, is convinced that the driver that hit Myrtle must have been her lover. The next day, Nick leaves work to visit Gatsby and finds him shot dead in his pool. Nick looks over and sees Wilson's dead body. After Gatsby's death, Nick arranges a funeral, but the only people that came were Henry Gatz, Jay's father, allies, and Nick. Nick learns that Tom told Wilson that Gatsby had run over Myrtle. Nick moves back to Minnesota because he can't deal with the corruption of New York. But the night before he leaves, he walks down to Gatsby's beach and looks out across the water. Like Gatsby, Nick says all people must move forward with their arms outstretched toward the future.
There are two themes, the Roaring Twenties and the social classes. F. Scott Fitzgerald coined the term Jazz Age to describe the 1920s, which is also known as the Roaring Twenties. After World War I ended in 1918, the U.S. and the rest of the world experienced an enormous economic expansion. The surging economy turned the 1920s into a time of easy money, hard drinking, and lavish parties. Though the 1920s were a time of great optimism, Fitzgerald portrays the much bleaker side by focusing on its indulgence, hypocrisy, and its even fatal consequences. The Great Gatsby portrays three different social classes: old money, which is Tom and Daisy Buchanan; new money, which is Gatsby; and a class that might be called no money, which is George and Myrtle Wilson. Old money families have fortunes that are passed down. The new money classes made their fortunes in the 1920s boom and therefore have no social connections and tend to overcompensate for this lack with lavish displays of wealth. They are usually associated with bootleggers. The Great Gatsby shows the newly developing class rivalry between old and new money and the struggle between Gatsby and Tom over Daisy. As usual, the no money class gets overlooked by the struggle at the top, leaving middle and lower class people like George Wilson forgotten or ignored. So there are two main symbols in The Great Gatsby: the green light at the end of Daisy's dock and the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. The green light at the end of Daisy's dock is a symbol of Gatsby's hopes and dreams. It represents everything that haunts and bothers Gatsby. The distance between him and Daisy, the gap between the past and the present, the promises of the future, and the powerful lure of the other green stuff he craves: money. In fact, the color green pops up everywhere in The Great Gatsby. A quote that shows the green light is in chapter 9, where it says, "Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we'll run faster, stretch out our arms farther, and then one fine morning, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past." The other symbol is the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg on the billboard overlooking the Valley of Ashes. It represents many things at once. To Nick, they seem to symbolize the haunting waste of the past, which lingers on through it, though it is irretrievably vanished, much like Dr. Eckelberg's medical practice. The eyes can also be linked to Gatsby, whose own eyes, once described as vacant, often stare out, blankly keeping vigil, word. It's a word Fitzgerald applies to both Dr. Eckelberg's eyes and Gatsby's, over Long Island Sound and the green light. To George Wilson, Dr. Eckelberg's eyes are the eyes of God, which he says sees everything. A quote that backs that up is where it says, "God knows what you have been doing, or everything you've been doing. You may fool me, but you can't fool God." Standing behind him, Michaelis saw with the shock that he was looking into the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg.
F. Scott Fitzgerald shows the view of man through the ambition of Gatsby and everything he did because of his love for Daisy. Gatsby's love for Daisy is parallel to his love for money when he needs to be rich in order to marry her. Gatsby even moved into a mansion across the water just so he could be close to Daisy, and he would throw parties every weekend in hopes that Daisy would come. Nick Carraway also exemplifies the view of man when he moves to New York to get into the bonds business in hopes of making money.
Hi.
Hi.
Fitzgerald portrays the American dream as the hard work that can lead from rags to riches. It has been the core idea of American identity since its start. Settlers came west to America from Europe seeking wealth and freedom. The pioneers headed west for the same reason. The Great Gatsby shows the tide turning east as people flock to New York City, seeking stock market fortunes. The Great Gatsby portrays this shift as a symbol of the American dream corruption. It's no longer a vision of building a life. It's just about getting rich. Gatsby symbolizes both the corrupted dream and the original uncorrupted dream. He sees wealth as the solution to his problems, pursuing money via shady schemes, reinventing himself so much that he becomes empty, disconnected from his past. Yet, Gatsby's corrupt dream of wealth is motivated by incorruptible love for Daisy. Gatsby's failure does not prove the foolishness of the American dream. Rather, it proves the downfall of shortcutting that dream by allowing corruption and materialism to prevail over hard work, integrity, and real love. And the dream of love that remains at Gatsby's core condemns nearly every other character in the novel, all of whom are empty beyond just their lust for money. Oh, hi, monsieur. Gatsby is great because of his great qualities he possesses, and his ambitious attitude, not for his money. He started off dirt poor, and with his ambitions and his dreams, he built a fortune with his hard work. With just a smile, Gatsby could make anyone feel bored. On page 48, Nick describes Gatsby as having one of those rare smiles with the quality of eternal reassurance in it that you may come across 4 or 5 times in life. It faced, or seemed to face, the whole eternal world in an instant. And then it concentrated on you, with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. It understood you so far as you would like to be understood, believed in you as far as you would like to believe in yourself.
Thanks for watching.